believers, unaffiliated believers, soda believers, and even you think I'm a believers, welcome. I always wanted to do that with a goofy, phony radio voice. Welcome, my non-university unstudents. Welcome indeed to the Uncensored Unprofessor, a show where we like to go deeper into the Christian way, a show where we dare to pause and do something the massive herd of sheeple seem incapable of doing, turn our brains on. Because today's show involves much seriosity, I first need to tell you about a church deacon back in Missouri. The preacher was winding up his sermon on temperance with great fervor. "If I had all the beer in the world, I'd take it and throw it into the river." The congregation cried, "Amen." "And if I had all the wine in the world, I'd take it and throw it in the river." And the congregation cried, "Amen." "And if I had all the whiskey and rum in the world, I'd take it all and throw it in the river." And the congregation cried, "Amen." After the sermon, the preacher sat down. The deacon stood up and said, "For our closing hymn, let us turn to page 126 and sing, 'We Shall Gather at the River.'" And that, folks, is how you take lemons and make lemonade, or limoncello, or lemon whiskey, or something. Thank you, Mikey's Funnies, for that joke. For today, I was just going to make a few remarks about the coronavirus globedemic and then move into my regularly slated show. But things are devolving so fast that I thought I'd interrupt my series and do a standalone episode. Today, COVID-19. Corona, corona. Corona, corona, the virus, the virus, the virus, the virus. From where did it come? They say it came from Wuhan. I've never been to Wuhan. Where the heck is Wuhan? It came from China. It must be triple E bad. Kill you really fast, dead. Corona, corona. Corona, corona, the virus, the virus, the virus, the virus. It's gonna end the world, let's go buy toilet paper, lots of toilet paper. Oh, pick me up some smokes, hun, it's gonna end the fun, so go buy lots of water, even for your daughter, fast. Corona, corona. Corona, corona, the virus, the virus, the horrid virus, the virus. If you don't wash your hands, you'll die in 20 minutes, grow scales in 15 minutes, turn green in 7 minutes. If you don't social distance, you'll contract it in a heartbeat, faster than a bullet. Death. Corona, corona. Corona, corona, the virus, the scary virus, the lizard virus, the virus. Wild stuff, right? And it's far more fascinating to watch the societal meltdown than to actually learn about the flu virus itself. To wit, the other day, Thursday, me and Mrs. U drove to Costco. In a not uncommon Rebarchekian marital mind meld strategy, we went 45 minutes before closing. It won't be that crowded. Pulling into the parking lot, we had to park way out by the boulevard. Walking into the store itself, it was like getting on the 405 freeway in West Hollywood at 5 o'clock Friday. Stop and crawl. Now, sure, people were polite, good grief, it is Idaho. But there was a quiet, dare I say, pensive feel to the mass-packed store. Hardly anybody was in the electronics section or the gadget section or the clothing sections, but back over in the food sections, cram jambo. Wall-to-wall people bodies. And I would have said human bodies, but because I know some of you would have been triggered since man is in the word human, I'll stick with people bodies. Just for kicks, we move back to where the toilet paper and water normally are. Zippo, nada, a black hole of emptiness. While I was standing back there, I overheard a Costco employee tell her customer, "Toilet paper? No, all gone." When I clocked in this morning at 10:30 a.m., it was already gone. Me, the UU, I saw a woman not wearing a coach's outfit with 3 cases of Gatorade. I saw a man with 4 50-pound bags of flour. I don't know, maybe he runs a bakery? Most carts were chock full, multiples of everything: peanut butter, rice cakes, spaghetti sauce. Amazing. Then the lines up to the cashiers ran a halfway back into the store. Even during Christmas seasons, I've never seen anything like it. And this is Idaho. People are sane here. But even in southern Idaho, the COVID mental virus has hit. Our shopping experience was like a kick to the core of my existential gut. Weird, apocalyptic. People were panic buying anything they could get their hands on. So I thought, I'd better go do some research on this coronavirus, since clearly it's going to bring about the end of the world within just a few days. And here's some of what my own UU research produced. The virus originated in Wuhan, China. Somebody there ate a snake or a bat or, gulp, a pangolin.
A penguin?
No, a pangolin, a gray, scaly armadillo. They ate that, and the virus jumped into peoplehood. Is that why people are freaked out? Because it's foreign, it's exotic, it's driven by a pangolinian origin? And because it originated with a bat or a snake or maybe even some, gulp, mandarin snake bat, the people who get infected manifest the following symptoms. Skin grows thick green scales. Eyes turn yellow. They prefer slithering to walking, and they have an insatiable craving to strangle small rodents. Rumor has it that pet stores all over the country are now seeing a high volume in gerbil and hamster sales. And then, in untreated cases, the infected begin speaking. With zero access to Rosetta Stone, the infected begin speaking Chinese. No wonder everyone is so freaked out. Chow mein. Why so freaked out? That's the question I'm asking myself. Why the unprecedented, massive freakazoid? Still more UU research. COVID spelled backward? Devoch. I mean, just geez, Devoch, the Romanian word for green devil. And corona spelled backward? Anorak, the name of the captain of the orcs in Lord of the Rings. 19 spelled backwards? 91. Did you hear me? Freaking 91. 91 is the answer to 10 times 9 plus 1. In Latin, the number 91 is spelled out XCI. Did you hear me, people? People, XCI. Do you know what XCI stands for in Wiccan? Are you sitting down? XCI stands for Donald Trump is the Antichrist, proving, oh, Lord help us, proving that the end is, in fact, near. After I post this episode, I'm going to crawl into my backyard underground bunker with a massive stack of Marvel comic books, 6 cases of Mountain Dew, 8 cases of Hoo-Hoo chocolate pies, several packs of 600 grit sandpaper. Thank you, all of you Charmin hoarders. We weren't able to buy any toilet paper to stock our underground corona shelter. I'm going to go into that bunker and wait patiently, quietly, for the earth to be devoured by ghoul zombies, the undead who, because they never got the Devoch inoculation, had a 666 branded into their foreheads and began eating common field mice. Oh, it's frightening, truly frightening. Corona, 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 the virus, the virus, the virus, the virus. In my own UU research, I came across this COVID-19 haiku following the beautiful 575 traditional syllabic structure. The virus flew in. If you can retain your wits, common sense flew out. Okay, all right, enough of my satire, enough UU tomfoolery. Dear Lord, help us turn your brains on, everybody. When I was a kid, we lived through the sweep of the measles, mumps, and chickenpox, each with far worse complications than Wuhan. Society didn't melt down. A decade ago, the swine flu hit, passed from an animal. Scientifically, they called it H1N1. Globally, 1.4 billion contracted H1N1. 284,000 people died globally, mostly in Asia. Interestingly, no social meltdown. Back in 2002, SARS syndrome landed, strangely also derived from a bat. Horseshoe bats in the Yunnan province of China. Makes me pause to consider. Maybe those Old Testament dietary laws were based in some godly wisdom after all. But the SARS syndrome had a 9.6% fatality rate. That's a lot. According to the World Health Organization, who? The World Health Organization, that's about 3 times the mortality rate as COVID-19. But society didn't freak out back in 2002? Fascinating. Either this is the worst virus to ever hit the United States, or culture has made a dramatic shift. What's the truth about COVID-19? Let me give you some C-19 facts. First, it is highly contagious. It's contracted primarily through the air through breathing. No, common painter's face masks are not sufficient to stop the spread of the virus. And they say it spreads something like 10 to 15 times faster than the average seasonal flu. The Center for Disease, the CDC website says it travels about 10 feet through a sneeze before it falls to the ground. It only took Italy 3 weeks to go from normal life to national lockdown, forced quarantine. It's highly contagious. But also, for most healthy folks who contract it, it's not that bad. It's fairly mild. There's a dry cough. Some people experience a fever. If you have a runny nose, you don't have C-19. 8,000 people listening just now breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, my runny nose isn't COVID. Less than 2% of those who contract it will be hospitalized. The other day I watched a brief interview with the son of actor Tom Hanks. He said his parents were quarantined in Australia and they had some symptoms, but on the whole they were doing fine. It's not that bad for most people. It also can live on hard surfaces for 12 hours, so washing your hands with soap and water is better than using hand gels or alcohol wipes. Today I was working out, listening to the radio, and someone had gone into a factory and stole all of the hand gel out of a bathroom over a bathroom sink. It's just so crazy. And me, I've washed my hands so much this week, they're drying out, they're getting craggly and scaly, which is not just a little ironic since people think that's what C-19 itself will do. Now, of course, if you have underlying health problems, that can contribute to the fatality rate. Smokers, the elderly, obesity, something like 45% of Americans are in the obese category. Folks who are immunocompromised, like chemotherapy patients or college freshmen. Oh my goodness. And the experts say there won't be a vaccine anytime soon. Closing schools is going to be of little effect because kids are not much getting sick by percentage compared to adults. This is interesting to me because 38% of nurses in the United States have children. We close all those schools, who's going to care for their kids? Oh, and there's no evidence at all that this is a bioweapon that originated in a Chinese lab. One epidemiologist I watched on Joe Rogan's podcast said, quote, "We are not able to do what Mother Nature can do." End quote. They can't manufacture a disease that does this. Or to quote the Seinfeld show's Cosmo Kramer, Mother Nature? She's a mad scientist. So there's a few facts for you fine fellows about the Wuhan V. I hope that calms your nervous systems a bit. And that takes me to my own observations about this Devoch virus. You guys, what is going on? What on earth is going on? What in the name of all things sane, all things tapanta is going on? What has changed so that, unlike any virus in my lifetime, March Madness hoops and all college sports have been canceled? Sorry, you 10,000s of college athletes who put in a year of hard work only to have the season canceled by campus attorneys. The NBA season is canceled. Really? Permanently? Will LeBron really let it be permanent? After all, he runs the league. He was set to win his 4th ring. What has changed so that the National Hockey League season has been brought to an icy end? Crazy, eh? And Major League Baseball season's start is indefinitely postponed. Same with Premier League football in England. Sorry, Liverpool fans, you get the boot. And to talk sports is to talk about billions of dollars of industry, travel, income, which means millions of people getting profoundly hurt financially. What? When we never did this before, again, the actual virus is fairly innocuous. What has changed so that travel bans have been put in place? California Governor Gavin Newsom on Sunday, March 15th, told all folks over 65 to not go outside and that all bars should close down and restaurants should cut their capacity to 50%. Is that a law? Will those social distancing policies be enforced by the governor's calling out of the National Guard? I don't know. What's going on when social distancing is the new norm and university semesters have been frozen or canceled? Public school kids by the 100,000s, probably millions now, are sent home for weeks on end. And again, 38% of those nurses have their own kids. Who's going to take care of them when those kids aren't contracting the virus anyway? And undoubtedly, by the actual time this pod is cast, more over the top, more overreaching, more catastrophizing policies will be implemented. That's the era we now live in. We have lost our minds. And apparently, when you lose your spine, you also lose your mind. What has changed here in 2020 so that thousands in the travel industry are going to be laid off? Thousands more in the entertainment industry are going to lose months' worth of salary. Disneyland and Disney World are both closed. A general sense of fear has burrowed deeply into the public collective consciousness. What has happened? Here's the answer. Mostly, legitimate concern gone bad. Or more accurately, the culture of safetyism. Safetyism. What is safetyism? Well, I talked about it at length in my 3-part series, Why We Must Fail. But briefly, safetyism is a culture wherein no one should ever have their physical safety threatened. We simply must ban playground equipment, dodgeball, and skateboards. Safetyism. A culture wherein no one should ever have their emotional stability threatened. So Yeah, let's ban losing in sports competitions. Let's outlaw, not just ban, but outlaw triggering one another. Let's prohibit me, a white man, from looking at you. And with it, let's ban free speech. Yeah, ban it. Free speech hurts people's feelings. Safetyism. The culture wherein no one should ever have their preferred identity not only not challenged, but positively celebrated. If you don't celebrate me, you're a hater. We can't just work alongside one another and enjoy one another's company. No, you have to celebrate my identity. Safetyism. Yeah, and let's legally enforce the required use of screwy pronouns like zer, them, ze, zerself. If you don't use my preferred pronoun, I'll sue zer company into non-existence. Safetyism. Safetyism. The expectation, no, the widespread mood that the government or lordy somebody should take care of me. Who is going to keep me safe? Who is going to force everyone else to keep me safe? Bah, bah. Someone take care of me. Safetyism. The virus flew in. If you can retain your wits. Common sense flew out. Safetyism. Legitimate concern gone bad. What happens when safetyism crosses the line, overreaches, goes too far? 330 million people might have their lives taken over, willingly, obediently, obsequiously, by bureaucrats who, air quotes, know better, who end our ability to travel, halt our ability to go to work, stall our children's education, choke out your ability to make a living, crush someone's retirement savings accounts, prevent us from going to church together, and generally make us live in a widespread sense of fear that when the virus is not any worse than the ones we've had in the past, safetyism. Either this is the worst virus to ever hit the United States, or culture has made a dramatic shift. You see, I didn't expect it. When me and Mrs. Yu went to Costco last week, those folks were terrified. They were scared. They were quiet and polite, but they were terrified. Of what? They were afraid of something, a flu bug from China. That is far less terrifying than the real, honest-to-God monsters like sudden economic recession, fiscal collapse. Government officials, bureaucrats, think in lockstep fashion administrators, right? 3 groups right there who haven't thought an independent thought in 3 decades, all making decisions that could cause long-lasting problems. The vaccine we have chosen may prove to be worse than the virus. Really, I'm afraid the social vaccine may prove to be worse than the virus. Do you think I'm fabricating the bureaucratic overreach? The Washington Examiner reports that the mayor of Champaign, Illinois, her name is Deborah Frank Finan, she just signed an emergency executive order. Here's what the Examiner wrote, quote, "That order, which is in line with municipal code, comes with extraordinary powers for the mayor to enact over a short period of time as the city combats the spread of the coronavirus." Among those powers Finan gained after signing her executive order was the power to ban the sale of guns, ammunition, alcohol, and gasoline. She also could cut off access to individuals' gas, water, or electricity. The city also has the ability to take possession of private property or order the temporary closing of all bars or liquor stores. Jeff Hamilton, the city's manager, said, I'm still quoting from the newspaper, Jeff Hamilton said, quote, "The executive order allows the city to be flexible to properly respond to the emergency needs of our community. None of the options will be necessarily implemented, but are available in order to protect the welfare and safety of our community if needed." Now, the Champaign, Illinois City Council held a meeting to address concerns about the powers the mayor took over. Deputy Mayor Tom Bruno noted that each ordinance considered under the executive order would be ratified by the council. The city also said the council and the mayor would only take steps, quote, necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare, end quote, of the city. The city will keep the public's best interests in mind, they said, as we continue to work alongside public health officials and countywide leaders, they wrote in a statement. We understand this is a challenging time, but working collaboratively as a community is the best approach to combating this virus. Now, here's me talking again. Undoubtedly, that Illinois mayor will only have been the first of hundreds to make that kind of declaration, because Bureaucracy 101 says that bureaucrats must do whatever other bureaucrats do. And of course, it's all for your good, because they know better. Terror, horror, freak out. Me? I went to church Sunday as a form of social protest. You're not going to frighten me into living in terror, yet. Our vaccine may prove to be worse than the virus. And yes, of course, the media is to blame in all this. Ratings, advertising revenue, an eye-glued national audience trying to figure out what is going on, trying to get good information. Everybody's drinking from a fire hose of fear-mongering and spine loss. I'm going to leave it up to others to assess the role of the media. But without question, along with politicians and civil officials, the media are driving the madness too. Safetyism. Lynn Bufka is the Associate Executive Director for Research and Policy at the American Psychological Association. Bufka said, quote, part of what drives feelings of anxiety is a lack of information. The virus is new, and there remain many questions about the illness it causes. Most people haven't had it, nor do they know someone who has, and experts say that matters. Bufka continued, we understand the flu. We have personal experience with it. That makes it less scary. We know what to expect with something like that. As humans, we can read information, hear information from others, and take it all in. But personal experience makes a difference, end quote. And Bufka's point is that our not knowing, that's what's scary. My point, again, either this virus is the worst one in American history or something culturally has changed. I've never seen a freak out like this. I'm going to bet my money on red. Something culturally has changed. It's legitimate concern gone bad. Safetyism. Now, you want to scare the bejeepers out of me? Hey, do Chrysler Jeep execs get triggered when people use that phrase, bejeepers? Do you want to scare the bejeepers out of me? Combine the phrases, quote, the executive order allows, and, quote, protect the welfare and safety of our community if needed. Put those phrases together in a government proclamation, and you'll see me running in terror. Give enormous power to people with no more education or training or wisdom than you or me. That is terrifying. Mayors, governors, congressmen, senators. You really want to do something productive? Start creatively preparing for ways to assist the medical community. Proactively begin planning to care for the tens of thousands of nurses' kids who don't have anywhere to go with mom at work. But don't, Chancellor Palpatine. Don't spend your energy finding ways to control and thereby freak out and bankrupt the average citizens. We may well look back and find that our self-imposed social vaccine proved to be worse than the virus. Should I hope I'm wrong? The virus flew in. If you can retain your wits. Common sense flew out. Now listen, do I want anyone to contract COVID-19? Course not. Am I indifferent to the elderly contracting the virus and dying? Stop. Do I have stock in Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Walgreens, or CVS? De nada. Sheesh, as I think of it, if I had $25,000 laying around, should I go buy medicinal pharmaceutical stock right now? Could I myself care less if I get the COVID? No, I don't want it. But our adopted social vaccine may prove to be worse than the virus. And so, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to you who are going to be out hundreds or maybe even thousands of dollars in childcare expenses. I just spoke with a neighbor this afternoon out at the mailbox. He serves in the military nearby. He said command told everybody there at the base that if they needed to take out a 0% loan to pay for childcare, the loan should not be that hard to get. But he doesn't want to take out a loan. How's he going to pay for someone to watch his 5-year-old and his 1-year-old? It's crazy. And then he told me he went to the store yesterday. They needed milk for the kids. All the milk was gone. The shelves were bare. He was happy he found a quarter of a gallon, a quart. People are panic buying. This is real life stuff, folks. Families are going to be brutalized. Our adopted social vaccine may prove to be worse than the virus. Safetyism. I'm sorry to you who are going to be out thousands more dollars in wages. While I've been working on this episode, I just learned about a distant cousin who's being laid off up at Boeing. They're downsizing until the economy picks back up. Sorry to you small business owners whose fiscal margins are so razor thin that this globademic is going to force you to close. Sorry to you listening today whose overseas trip is now ruined. Oh my goodness, did you see? Thousands of Americans flew home over the weekend. They got to airports around the nation and were held in line for 4 to 6 hours while they went through government bureaucracy. That's 4 to 6 hours of thousands of people breathing on one another. When we have governors saying, I don't want you in crowds of more than 250, or now I'm hearing 100, or now I'm hearing 50. The government kept thousands of people in massive lines at the airport. And we're trusting them to do the right thing? Oh, you who are going to study abroad for a semester? Sorry. You who were just getting ready to retire this year, but your 401k just got trimmed by 20%? Sorry. All because of what looks like a screwy overreaction. An unprecedented, hysterical, historical reaction to something we've worked through or around over a dozen other times in my lifetime, all without the social freakazoid. I could go on and on with a list of ways people are going to have their lives ruined because of this overreaction. My younger brother lives in the Bay Area in California. He just let the family know that the Bay Area is entering into a lockdown. The San Francisco Chronicle reports that, quote, 6 Bay Area counties announced a shelter-in-place order for all residents on Monday. All residents, the strictest measure of its kind yet in the continental United States, directing everyone to stay inside their homes and away from others as much as possible for the next 3 weeks as public health officials desperately try to curb the rapid spread of the coronavirus across the region. Real life stuff. Our adopted vaccine may prove to be worse than the virus. The virus flew in. If you can retain your wits. Common sense flew out. My dear listener, by the time you hear this podcast, I believe more severe governmental steps will have been taken. This episode's going to be rendered passé in just a few hours. Safetyism. I have an old college friend named Tom. Tom said, the virus will bankrupt more people than it will kill. Our adopted social vaccine may prove to be worse than the virus. And I suspect watching social media I suspect some folks listening to me today will think, sheesh, Ed, where's your concern? Where's your compassion? Where's your compassion for those who are sick? I am compassionate. I'm praying. I'm concerned. And I might turn that question around to you. Where's your compassion for the millions who are going to be sucker punched in the economic kidneys by this overreaction? Safetyism run amok. We may well look back and find that our self-imposed social vaccine is worse than the virus. Wisdom? Of course. Prudence? Without question. The federal government spending hundreds of millions to make widespread testing available? Yes, please, although the more I watch this drag out, the less helpful that's going to actually be. Quarantining those infected? That makes sense to me. Fastidiously washing your hands? Duh. Nurses in hospitals and elderly care facilities, nurses wearing face masks? I don't know. It's probably too late for that. You yourself struggle with a lung complication? To think of a nearby aunt of mine. Yeah, stay home for a couple weeks. No need for unnecessary risks. Federal government offices are going to be closed? Who cares? The same amount of productivity is going to result. Close all the schools when kids and young people are hardly contracting the virus at all, less so than the elderly? Our vaccine's going to be worse than the virus. Halt all travel. Vaccine worse than virus. Tell all people over 65 they must stay indoors. Vaccine worse than virus. Force restaurants, grocery stores, and public spaces to close. Vaccine worse than virus. Shutting down everyday life over this? It's safetyism run amok. And for those of you who are spelling challenged, that's AMOK. Vaccine worse than virus. And here's what I'm really wondering. What is going to happen when a major crisis hits? Our nation is ripe for some real catastrophe. Are we ripe for an honest-to-God tyrant to take control of our nation? This is when tyrants step in. And I wonder, would people willingly, freely, give up control of their lives for the promise of safety? To me, it's frightening stuff. Christian disciples, love your neighbors, care for them, pray for the medical community, doctors, nurses, techs, janitors. Pray for the scientific community, epidemiologists, lab workers, researchers, janitors. Pray for parents, pray for peace, for wisdom, pray for calm. You exhibit peace and calm and reason for your family and kids. They need your strength. Like the aforementioned deacon in Missouri, turn this lemon into lemonade. Get out the table games and have fun together. Calm down. You're going to live. Oh, thanks for listening today. Be kind to one another. Show grace to one another. And please, turn your beautiful, God-given brains on everybody.